everyone, I'm Isa Soriano, and we are going to discuss to you guys the justice and fairness promoting the common good. In this video, we are considering discuss the person who proposed and successfully published the theory of justice, also the nature of the theory, including the distributive justice, the egalitarianism, capitalist, and socialist. And lastly, the state and the citizen, and the responsibility to each other, and the taxation. So let's go, and let's start, in justice and fairness, promoting the common good. John Rawls is a popular 20th century philosopher. He was born and raised in Baltimore, Maryland in the year 1921. His father is a prominent lawyer, while his mother is a chapter president of the Legal Forum and Voters. He studied at Princeton University and proceeded to teach Oxford, Harvard, and MIT. In 1971, he published The Theory of Justice, in which he attempted to provide a moral theory alternative to utilitarianism, and he addresses the problem of distributive justice, the socially just distribution of good in a society. The theory is an updated form of Keynesian philosophy in a variant form of conventional social and contract theory. This complex work attempts to develop standard of principle of social justice that could apply to real societies. So now, let's define justice and fair. When we talk about justice, it means giving each person what he or he deserves, or in more traditional term, it is giving each person his or her due. When something is just, it is by definition F-A-I-R or fair. Justice focuses mostly on the standard and rule of law in our current justice system. On the other hand, fairness is the freedom from prejudice and quality of treating people equally. It is usually dictated by our moral system. Like for example, Robin Hood steals money from the rich to give it to the poor. Just think about it. It is just or it is fair? Well, it is acceptable based on the point of view of the poor who benefit by the money, but it is unjust for the rich who benefit money. According to John Rawls, ideally, a just society must offer the same opportunities to everyone. However, because of our imperfect justice system, justice then becomes unfair to the poor and favorable to the rich. Ang nangyayari kasi ngayon, at huwag na tayong lumayo sa ating bansa, kung sino ang may kwarta at kung sino ang may kapangyarihan, sila ang pinapanigan ng sistema at naiiwan sa laylayan ang mga mangmang at walang alam na mamamayan. The term justice and fairness are closely related terms and are even used interchangeably. But to what extent justice is considered fair? When we talk about rape cases, syempre gusto natin na makulong agad-agad sila. Dahil hindi makatarungan o yung kilos na ginawa nila ay hindi akma, lalong-lalo na sa mga kababaihan. But because of the citizen's right to hire a lawyer, including rapists at kahit pa mga kriminal yan, some of things might turn out entirely different as what we expected. This is how justice works not only here in the Philippines, but maybe in other countries too. This is work for the rich and powered person. Now, let's explore the type of justice. First is the distributive justice. It refers to the extent to which society and institution ensure that the benefit and burdens are distributed among society's members in a way that it is fair and it is just. Second is the corrective justice. Corrective justice is for the punishment of the criminal cases. Third and the last one is the compensatory justice, where it refers to the extent to which people are properly compensated to their injuries by those who injured them. However, Rawls focused more in issue concerning distributive justice, where Ms. Ventura discussed it later on. So let's move on to the two principles of social justice. These are the liberty principle and the equality principle. Liberty principle is concerned with political institution. This principle means that everyone has the some basic liberties which can never be taken away. Rawls included most of the liberties in the U.S. Bills of Rights, such as freedom of speech and due process of law. He added some liberties from the broader area of human rights like freedom of travel. The other principle is the equality principle, where it is must focus on equality. Rawls realized that a society could not avoid inequalities among its people, and yes, hanggang ngayon, kahit pagbalik-baliktarin man natin ang mundo, may equality pa rin na nagaganap sa trabaho, politika, at marami pang iba. Inequalities result from such things as was inherited characteristic and social class, personal motivation, and even luck. For example na lang, at ito ang totoo, dahil sa pandemya, nagkaroon tayo ng malawakang pagtulong or nagkaroon ng malawakang pagtulong ang gobyerno sa mga mamamayan ng Pilipinas. Like example is ang SAP or the Social Amelioration Program, where they said that everyone can be the benefit of this SAP. Pero ang totoo, sa kandahaba-haba ng proseso na ginawa, pili ang naging sistema. Kung saan, marami sa mga Pilipino ang tinamad ng mag-asikaso or mag-process ng kanilang papel dahil ang daming hinahanap. So, bato-bato sa langit, ang matamaan po ay huwag magagalit. Even so, Rawls insisted that just and fair society should find ways to reduce inequalities where it can act. There are two conditions of the equality principle. First is the fair equality of opportunity, where this principle maintains that offices and position should be open to any individual regardless sa kanilang social background, ethnicity, o sa kanilang kasarian. Pangalawa ay ang difference principle, which this principle states that any unequal distribution of social or economic good is permissible only such that the least advantaged member of society would be better off under that distribution. This is the ending of introduction of this report. And now, let's hear Ms. Balotindos regarding on her report.
The Nature of the Theory or Theory of Justice by John Rawls. John Rawls' Theory of Justice attempt to explain why clear social inequalities are unjust and what a just society really is. And we can glean from Rawls' Theory of Justice some kind of an ethical theory. A theory of justice Rawls attempted is to address the problem of distributive justice, and one follows, these notes will briefly sketch the key concept of the Rawls theory of justice. Start with Rawls believed that a just society is one whose characteristics conform to normative rules that everyone would agree. This explains why Rawls theory justice begins by the fundamental principles that every individual is inviolable. Each person possesses an inviolability founded on justice that even the welfare of the state cannot override. And therefore, the rights secured by justice are not subject to political bargaining or to the calculus of social interest. From these fundamental principles, we can draw the following implications, which is the first four rules is life should not be sacrificed for the sake of the majority. For examples is suppressing the people's right to speech and expression for the sake of economic growth or is morally wrong for Rawls. As we can see, Rawls' theory of justice direct intact consequentialist. Consequentialist ethics, especially its most notable representative, that is utilitarianism. The second is erroneous theory, which is tolerable in the absence of a good one. And Rawls believed that an unjust law is better than no law at all. An act of injustice is tolerable if and only if it is necessary to avoid greater act of injustice. For example, it might be morally right to incapacitate, if not kill, a notorious serial killer if it is the only way to stop him from killing more innocent people. Number 3. Individual liberties should be restricted in order to maintain equality of opportunity. For Rawls, restrictions through law preserve freedom in democracy. For example, it is probably morally right to restrict people from owning more than 5 hectares of agriculture lot so that other people will have the chance to have an own lot. With this, we can come up with the 2 basic principles of justice. 2 basic principles of justice that Rawls introduced his seminal work, A Theory of Justice. These 2 principles of justice are the expressions of what Rawls calls justice as fairness. The first principles put emphasis on equal access to the basic human needs, rights, and liberties, which is, Rawls calls this the equal liberty principle. These principles guarantee the right of each person to have the extensive basic liberty compatible with the liberty of others. Some examples of this right are the right to life, the right to vote, the right to speech, the right to peaceable assembly. Now, the second principle's emphasis on the idea of fair equality for opportunity and the equal distribution of socio-economic inequalities. Rawls calls this the difference principles, which is the principles implies socio-economic positions are to be everyone is advantaged and it is open to all. But how can such principle be universally adapted, or how can we actualize Rawls' theory of justice? It is here where Rawls notions the first is veil of ignorance and second is original position come in. Rawls introduces the theoretical veil of ignorance, which is all players in the social game would be placed in a hypothetical situation called the original position. Rawls suggests that in the original positions, each individual does not know her sex, race, natural abilities, social status, economic conditions, and the like. In other words, in the original positions, individuals hide their identity behind the veil of ignorance. Just like Rawls advocate, epoche or phenomenological advocate, which is the individual in the original position set aside her biases towards and preconceptions about anything. According to Rawls, out of this veil of ignorance, each individual make a rational prudential choice concerning the kind of social institution they would enter into contact with. As we can see, Rawls appears to be a moral contractarian. His theory of justice is in itself a kind of veil of ignorance or social contract. Rawls recommend that individual in the veil of ignorance or the ignorance adopt a generalized point of view that bears strong resemblance to a moral point of view. And according to Rawls, if everybody in the original positions promote equality and justice as fairness is attained. If inequality is upheld, then injustice prevails. As we can see, justice as fairness is achieved through the notions of the original positions and the veil of ignorance. And in the original position, individuals agree on specific social rules and institution, while in the veil of ignorance, individuals choose the basic structure of society that they thought is just. And this is possible because John Rawls argues that selfish but rational people who are detained from their concrete identity and context will freely choose to create a society that is truly just. In fact, Rawls believed that through the veil of ignorance, individual can identify universal belief about how society should be organized.
Hi, it's teacher Kriza. and our topic is all about distributive justice. Distributive justice concerns the socially just allocation of resources and the fair distribution of money and possessions. Part of becoming a citizen of a capitalist society recognizes that all commodities can be circulated through society through certain means. Distributive justice concerns with who possesses these resources and how they are obtained. In kingdoms and nations, the emperor will own all the goods, but let his follower enjoy them in his name. In westernized civilization, there is no central force which owns all goods. Economic goods, income or property, opportunities for development, education or citizenship, recognition, honor or status. Armstrong defines distributive justice as the ways that the benefits and burdens of our lives are shared between members of a society or community. Major tenets of distributive justice: equality affects two areas of distributive justice: opportunities and outcomes. Equality of opportunity is found when all members of a society are allowed to participate in acquiring goods. Proportionality: it is based around the idea that equal work produces equal outcomes. Fairness is the backbone of the principle of equality and proportionality. Theories of distributive justice. Number 1. Rawls justice as fairness. Any inequalities in a society should benefit the least advantage. Number 2. Utilitarianism. Attempt to maximize benefits for society by balancing entitlement and needs. Number 3. Lack egalitarianism. Inequalities should be deemed fair as long as they follow from individuals' deliberate and fully informed choices, while inequality should be deemed unfair if they follow from choices over which the individual has no control. Distributive justice certainly is achieved when individuals receive the same allocation of benefits. Some examples of distributive justice are the following. State services provide social insurance or medical care to all aged and retired citizens are symbols of distributive justice in constitutional democracy. Public schools, where all children have equal chances to attend. Strengths: protects many. A just workplace encourages ethical decisions by workers. Weaknesses: practically ignores individual efforts and discourages differences. Ignores other rights such as inheritance. The word isn't fair.
Hello, I'm Jan Paul, BEd student of Aurora State College of Technology, second year. Now I'm here to discuss and explain what are the meaning of the word egalitarian. I will tell the definition or meaning the word egalitarian, and I will give some example about the word egalitarian. So now let's start. Egalitarian is a belief that everyone should be treated the same or equally, and all should have the same rights. This is one of the definition by the word egalitarian. Now I will give one example of that definition. An example of egalitarian is where people are not discriminated against on the basis of race or religion. Another meaning of egalitarian is a person who believes that all people created equal and should be treated equal. Another example of egalitarian is a person who fights for civil rights, like Martin Luther King Jr. There are some studies who believe that we live in egalitarian society, but for me is no. We are not totally live in an egalitarian society, but we are slowly making strides in that direction. And I believe we should be working even harder to develop one. No human baby should be denied his or her future equal or civil rights simply because of the way he or she came into this world. So, I'm finished to explain and discuss what are the meaning of egalitarian, and I'm done to give some example of the word egalitarian. Now, I'm here to say or share some of my insight about the word egalitarian. The first word that came in my mind when I hear the word egalitarian, it is the word that all people will be treated equal. I remember that my teacher said before, Teacher Olila, who said us that no person can above the law. I believe on that quote because on that quote, it is connected on the word egalitarian. It simply means that there are no rich and no poor when it came to the rights of people. So I think that all of the viewers will clearly understand what are the meaning of the word egalitarian. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone, and I am back again. But for now on, I will discuss the capitalist and socialist. But first, let's define capitalist. Capitalist, from purely economic point of view, a capitalist is a person who owns a means of production and who buys in order to sell for profit. However, the productive role that capitalists and businessmen serve cannot be overstated. Far from being exploiters, the true function of capitalists is to raise the productivity and thus the real wages of manual labor by means of creating, coordinating, and improving the efficiency of the division of labor. Sinasabi na ang capitalist are the member of capitalism who control the profit, wages, and services that gained by manpower. Capitalist is also known as the businesswomen or the businessman or mas kilala sa tinatawag na trader. By continuously improving the efficiency of division of labor, capitalists and businessmen are responsible for raising wages and creating employment which serves to raise the standard of living of everyone. Furthermore, by funding research and capital investment, corporations and capitalists make possible to all of the modern-day conveniences that most people take granted every day. In fact, since capitalists make available so much life-saving and labor-saving technology to many people, dapat sila isaalang-alang bilang isa sa mga mankinds that have greatest benefactors. A few capitalists and businessmen have done more enjoyable little. Indeed, most people would not even be alive today if it weren't for capitalists. And isa sa pinakakilalang kapitalista or capitalist country ay ang USA. If one considers human life a value, then they should regard capitalists as one of its greatest promoters. Like example, if Mother Teresa ay gusto niya talagang makatulong sa mga tao, she should try and accumulate enough capital to start a factory in a poor nation and hire or employ thousands of people who would not have job without her. Another definition of capitalist is anyone who lives solely by his own effort and who respect the right of others. From janitor to a millionaire one. Sinasabi na ang pinakamagandang simbolo ng capitalist ay ang mga negosyante o tinatawag na trader. This is a man and women who only deals with other people on a voluntary basis. And this is the quotation that I leave on to you. A capitalist is not an exploiter for necessarily a greedy individual. And now, let's move on to the socialist. Socialist is a person who advocates or practices socialism. Another definition of socialist means the system under which economic system is controlled and regulated by the government so as to ensure welfare and equal opportunity to the people in a society. Socialism is an economic and political system that the means of making, moving, and trading wealth should be owned or controlled by the worker. This means that the money made belongs to the worker who make product instead of any private sectors. And the people who agree with this type of system are called socialists. Socialists believe that everything in society is made by the cooperative effort of the people and the citizen. Without the effort of all people in this system, the practice and advocates of the capitalism is nonsense. Socialists argued that public control of factories, mines, railroads, and other key industries would end poverty and promote equality. And yes, they are right, because there are a lot of opportunity for all of the people in the society at mas nagkakaroon pa ng pantay-pantay na pagtingin ang gobyerno sa mga pangangailangan ng bawat isa. Example na lamang ay ang free education sa public school like sa ASCOT, where the government who advocate and practice this kind of law are gives to the student to go on school na walang iniintinding pambayad pagdating ng katapusan ng isang semester or every semester. There are main features of socialist economy, and some of these are the collective ownership, where the government and no individual can hold private property beyond certain limit. Therefore, it is government who utilize these resources in the interest of social welfare. Second, the economic planning, where the government fixes certain objectives. In order to achieve these objectives, government adopt economic planning. Third is the positive role of government. The government has complete control over economic activities like distribution, exchange, consumption, invest, and foreign trade. Fourth, work and wage according to ability and needs. It is by working according to the ability and wages according to the needs. And lastly, maximum social welfare. The sole objective of the socialism is the maximum social welfare of the society. It means that there is no scope of exploitation of labor class. Government keeps a close eye on the needs of the poor masses while formulating plans. But now, I have a question to you that you ask it to yourself. Today, are you a capitalist or a socialist? I hope you understand the report that I given to you, and thank you.
The state and citizen responsibilities to each other. So, bakit nga ba kailangan nating pag-aralan kung ano nga ba yung responsibilities na nasa isa't isa? Siyempre, for we're able to know yung rights natin, tapos yung responsibilities natin bilang individual or bilang kasapi ng isang state. Pero bago natin alamin kung ano nga ba yung responsibilities ng state and citizen, syempre, una natin nga alamin kung ano nga ba yung state and citizen, kung ano yung pagkakaiba nilang dalawa. So, let's proceed. What is the state? According to Merriam-Webster, it is a politically organized body of people usually occupying a definite territory, which means state is defined as a territory. State that has own government and borders within a larger country. Bakit nasabing own government? Because government symbolizes that all have responsibilities, they all control territory, they create orders and law, rules. The government runs the internal part of the state. Bakit naman sinabing borders within a larger country? Because it is clearly defined territory, where it is clear, defined, where is the internal and external part of the state. Next is a political and legal entity. Bakit naman sinabing a political and legal entity? Because it is a global driver sa pag-global politics. Now, nalaman na natin kung ano yung state. Ngayon, next tayo, kung ano nga ba yung citizen. According also to Merriam-Webster said that citizen is a member of a state. Member of a state. It is a member of political community who enjoys the rights and assumes the duties and responsibilities of membership. Citizen has a right and responsibilities as a family, members, or as a student in one country or in a one state. Yet, we have rights, but definitely, we have also responsibilities. A citizen is a person who owes loyalty to and is entitled to the protection of a government. So, a citizen is the enjoying the protection given by the government. Now, na-define na natin kung ano nga ba yung pagkakaiba ng citizen and the state. Now, let us proceed kung ano nga ba yung responsibilities nila. Unahin natin ang the responsibilities of the state to the citizen. First, maintenance of law and order. Why? It is the prime duty of government to keep the society intact and in peace by regulating the conduct of individuals living in one society by punishing the offender of the law. Why? Offending of the law. For example, we all know nowadays we experience the COVID-19 pandemic, which is talagang malaking epekto sa atin. So, example of law and order for me is yung pagpapatupad ng curfew hour from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. which is kung sino man yung lumabag sa order na yon given by the government, so nagkakaroon siya ng punishment kasi sa pagsuway dun sa law na yon. Yan yung maintenance of law and order. Next is protection of lives and properties. It is the responsibilities of governments to protect lives and properties of citizens living within the country or outside the country. To ensure, bakit kailangan ng government na protectionan yung lives and properties natin? Because as a citizen, we have the right to life, to enjoy, yes. Yung kaya kailangan nilang ensure or protectionan yung lives and properties natin is to ensure our enjoyment of our right to life and to use our own properties. Next, promotion of democracy and justice. Promotion of democracy and justice. It is true this that individuals' right will be enjoyed fully and everyone will be able to realize his potentials. For example, in social justice, let us example in the labor law, which is the laborer enjoy the rights, occupational health, and safety. Because of the promotion of social justice, the laborer, the workers, or even individuals who work, they are enjoying the rights of occupational and health safety. Next is provision of economic development. Provision of economic development, it is also the responsibilities or duties of the government to pursue a good fiscal and monetary policies that will promote economic growth and development. Let us example, when we said economic development, so it's overall because it's talk about the country, the economic development of one country. So let us example the larger size of one family. So the government provide universal access in modern family planning and quality education, so they advocate the understanding or knowledge about the family planning. So, number 5 is about the provision of social welfare services. Why? Why provision of social welfare services? Because we all know as a people or a citizen in one state, we need a medical, education, and good resources to live in the fullest. There may include roads, hospitals, a good pipeline of water, electricity and education, and other resources or services that improve our standard of living as a citizen. Example, in education, the government built a public school which is free and no one left behind. When we said no one left behind, nasa atin na lang kung mag-aaral tayo o hindi. Kasi public school, which means wala tayong tuition, wala tayong ganyan-ganyan. So, ang gagastusin na lang natin is yung for ourselves. So, nagpatayo sila ng ganun para ma-meet natin yung kalidad ng edukasyon. And also, meron din silang pinatupad na ALS program for the elders or yung mga nanay, tatay, mga ate natin na hindi nakagraduate ng elementary and secondary. The government give a chance para mapatunayan yung sarili nila. Number 6, protections of human rights. Why? Why the government need to protect our human rights? Government must also to ensure that the fundamental human rights of the citizens are protected. Because every individuals face the world. Lahat tayo. So, the government needs to ensure that our human rights is protected. So that every individuals face the world without fear because their rights is infringed. When we said infringed, naproprotektahan. Example, the government do an act made that protect of the rights of human, like the Act 1993, the protection of human rights. Definitely, this is the responsibilities of government to ensure our human rights are protected and yung hindi na validate or hindi natatapak-tapakan yung human rights, yung pagkatao natin. So, kailangan na-ensure nila yung responsibilities ng government yon. Next is number 7, maintenance of external relation. It is the responsibilities of government because maintaining a good internal relation with the other countries is a view to ensure peaceful and unity. We all know naman na kapag may maganda tayong relasyon, countries to countries, nagkakaroon tayo ng pagkakaisa ng katahimikan. Last is provision of employment and opportunities. We all know naman that the poverty is indeed. Andiyan na yan, hindi na yan mawawala mula pagsilang mo, yan na yan. So, that is the duty of government to provide a job or enabling environment for the citizen to ensure to make source of livelihood. Yung government, duty niya na, yung kahit papaano is magkaroon tayo ng source of income para matustusan din yung pang-araw-araw natin. Like, creating employment opportunities like jobs on a promotion ladder, which is example, teacher 1 ka. Syempre, ladder yon, hagdan yon, pataas ka doon, teacher 1, teacher 2, teacher 3, and so on. So, the government creating that para kahit papaano, habang umaangat ka, umaangat din yung nagiging sahod mo. So that, to make or sabi dito, to ensure and make source of livelihood of the citizen. So, ayun, hope may natutunan kayo sa responsibilities ng state to the citizen. Ngayon naman is dadako tayo sa kung ano nga ba yung responsibilities ng citizen to the state. Let's proceed. Number 1, voting. Why? One of the most important responsibilities of citizens is voting. Because of the peacefulness of our country is in the hand of our citizens. Botante tayo, nakasalalay sa atin yung ikakaunlad ng bansa, depende sa namumuno or sa pinunong pipiliin natin na siyang mamumuno sa isang bansa. So, this is the most important of responsibility of one citizen. So, number 2, obey laws. Bakit? A good citizen is responsible to knowing and obeying the law that affect his or her life or his or her action. Bakit? Let me recall our topic before, yung responsibilities ng state sa citizen, yung protection of human rights. Responsibilities nila yun, di ba? Protektahan yung human rights natin. So, nasa atin yung katuparan nung ginawang law doon. Kung susundin natin, kasi we are responsible. Tayong responsable sa magiging action natin. So, as a citizen, responsibilidad mo na alamin at sumunod sa batas na ipinag-uutos ng isang country. Next is defend the nation. Nation, state, or either the government depending on you. Dinedependahan ka nila. Which I mean is pinaglalaban ka nila, ayan, inaalalayan ka nila. Dapat ikaw bilang citizen, responsibilidad mo rin to defend your nation. We need to have to defend the nation against the threats to its peace and security. Kasi kung hindi natin magdedependahan yung nation natin is parang ang gulo, di ba? Kagaya nung nakaraan pang panahon, yung sakop-sakop na yon, di ba? Nawawalan tayo ng peace, ng independence, kasi ibang bansa yung nananakop sa atin, ibang bansa yung nagpapatakbo sa atin. So, dapat tayo bilang miyembro ng state is dapat alam natin dependahan yung nation natin. Let us example, maybe in America, yes, if you are 18 years old, you need to go, or 18 years old men, you need to undergo in military training so that you know how to defend your nation. Nakakatulong ka. Number 4 is paying taxes. Paying taxes is a honest and timely manner. Bakit? Kumakain ka, nagtatrabaho ka, nagagamit mo yung mga establishmento na pinatay ng gobyerno. So, karapatan mong magbayad ng taxes, paying your percentage of wage to the government. The common good that citizens depend on, such as functioning system of roads, fire police protection, and public education, which is public school, are difficult to achieve if the citizens are not paying their taxes. Hindi natin ma-achieve lahat yan kung tayong mga Pilipino is hindi nagbabayad ng taxes. Kasi, responsibilidad natin yan. Pagbayad tayo ng taxes para yung functioning ng system is like roads, ayan, yung mga bagong daan na paggawa ngayon, katas yun ng pagbabayad ng taxes natin. So, number 5, serve in court. If no one can handle the law and order, then it is nonsense. Paano yan? Nagpagawa lang yung gobyerno ng order, ng law, tapos walang mag-handle. Di ba walang magpapatupad, walang, what I mean is, parang, okay lang. Ayun, okay lang. Sige, nagpatupad sila. Yun lang, nagpatupad lang. Pero parang para sa akin, nawawalan siya ng kabuluhan. Because we are responsible for this. If you commit something worthy of court, you have the right to trial by jury. So, dapat gumawa ka ng worth para sa court. Ayun, serve in court na, di ba? If you commit something worthy in court, sabi nga, you have the right to trial by jury. Next is respect diversity. Why? Bakit napasama siya sa responsibilities ng citizen? You must respect the rights of people, even the people you disagree with. Di balik na naman tayo sa kanina. Yung responsibilities ng state, which is protection of human rights. Paano po protektahan ng gobyerno ang human rights mo kung ikaw mismo na tao hindi mo alam irespeto yung rights ng iba? So, it's nonsense na naman, di ba? So, nasa atin yung kaganapan ng law. Nasa atin yung kaganapan ng responsibilities ng state. So, respect the rights of people, even the people you disagree with. Kahit pakaaway mo yan, respeto mo yung karapatan niya. Next is respect the rights of others. Parang pareho lang siya ng respect, diversity. Respect the rights of others. To enjoy your right to the fullest, that the government given protection, for that you must be prepared to respect other rights as well. Paano mo ma-enjoy yung rights na binigay sa'yo ng gobyerno, which is, is yung pagpuprotekta ng gobyerno sa rights mo, kung ikaw mismo hindi mo alam irespeto yung rights ng ibang tao. Dapat, bago mo ma-enjoy to the fullest yung rights mo, dapat you know to respect the rights of others. The last one is, be informed. Maging matalinong citizen ka. Since the government is constantly answering your safety, ensuring your safety, we all know that, yung protection of lives and properties, yes, doon pa lang, na ano na, diba, na parang napoprotektahan na yung safety natin, so that you should know what the government is doing. Responsibilidad mong alamin yung ginagawa ng gobyerno. Dapat nagkakaroon ka ng opinion, yung hindi basta, ito ako, mamayan lang ako, citizen lang ako. Dapat, responsibilidad mo rin makihalubilo sa government doing. Kasi, yan kayo, yung mga pinapatupad nilang law, ikaw ang nakikinabang doon, ikaw bilang citizen. Sabi nga, because you may the one who beneficial for this. So, ibig sabihin, be informed. Kailangan maging matalino kang mamamayan. So, constantly answering your safety. Siyempre, alangan naman na basta, sige, pagkakatiwala ko yung seguridad ko sa gobyerno, but you don't know kung anong ginagawa nila. So, bilang good citizen, dapat alam mo or be informed. Inform ka. You should know what the government is doing. Ayan. So, ito, nagtapos na topic natin, yung responsibilities ng state and citizen to each other. Hope may natutunan kayo pareho, citizen and state. So, thank you sa pakikinig and God bless.
Good morning everyone. My name is Mayan Biverial from B.Ed2, last reporter of Group 4. Now, let's talk about principles of taxation and inclusive growth. What is taxation? So, taxation refers to the practice of a government collecting money from each citizen to pay for public service. So, meaning, without taxation, there would be no libraries and parks. So, taxation daw po. Ang taxation po ay sa Tagalog is buwis. Ang buwis ay ang pondo or ang binabayaran ng bawat mamamayan upang magkaroon ng pondo ang gobyerno para makapagpatayo ng iba't ibang magagandang mga buildings at mga bagong buildings kagaya ng bagong paaralan, bagong gusali sa palengke, like that, bagong mga transportation, daanan, at iba't iba pang mga pinopondohan na proyekto ng gobyerno. Now, let's talk about the two major principles of taxation. First one, the ability to pay principles. When we say the ability to pay principles, the belief that taxes should be based on the individual's ability. From the word ability, ito yung abilidad or kakayahan ng isang tao na makapagbayad ng buwis. For example, si Teacher May ay kumikita ng 20,000. Ngayon, ang nakalkula ng tagapagsingil ay 5,000 ang kanyang babayaran. So, meaning, yun lang ang babayaran niya kasi yun yung nakikita nilang kapasidad at kakayahan ni Teacher May na babayaran na taxes. So, sinasabi nga dito, this is the capacity of citizen to earn income. Dumako naman tayo sa the two types of the ability to pay principles. First is the horizontal equity. When we say the horizontal equity, same income pay the same amount of taxes. So meaning, kung ano ang babayaran ng isang ay ng dalawang magkaparehas ng income, yun din ang babayaran nilang taxes. Parehas po sila ng babayaran. For example, si Teacher May ay kumikita ng 20,000. Single siya, so nagbabayad siya ng 5,000. Si Nurse Gab naman ay kumikita rin ng 20,000 pero pamilyado siyang tao at nagbabayad siya ng 5,000. So meaning, parehas sila ng income, so parehas din sila ng babayaran ng tax kahit magkaiba pa man ang kanilang estado, basta parehas sila ng income na kinikita, parehas sila ng babayaran na taxes. Second is the vertical equity. When we say the vertical equity, explains how individual with different economic capacity pay different amount of taxes. Let's say si Teacher May, 20,000 ang kinikita niya. So, nagbabayad siya ng 5,000. Si Gab naman, for example, is a billionaire. So, kailangan niya magbayad ng mas malaki kasi para makapagpatayo siya ng panibago niyang mga buildings at infrastructure, kailangan niya magbayad ng mas malaking taxes kaysa kay Teacher May. Kasi si Teacher May is, ang rating capacity lang niya is let's say 5,000, so makakamit niya yung mga basic needs para sa pamilya niya. While si Gab na billionaire, kailangan niya ng mas malaking taxes para sa pag-unlad ng kanyang business. So dito sa vertical equity, pinapaliwanag ang pagkakaiba ng binabayaran na or pagbabayad ng ating tax. Move on to the benefit principle. When we say the benefit principle, the idea that there should be some equivalence between what individual pays and the benefit he subsequently receive from governmental activities. When we say the benefit principles, from the word benefit is yung benepisyo ng binabayaran mong tax. Dito sa benefit principle, it explains the taxes you paid, where should be go, or kung saan ba napupunta yung binabayaran mong tax. So, mapapansin mo na nai-enjoy at nagagamit mo na pala yung mga benepisyong binabayaran mo na taxes. So, from the word benefit lang is yung benepisyo at yung pagpapaliwanag kung ilan ba yung dapat mong bayaran para ma-enjoy mo kung ano man yung gusto mong makamit at magamit para sa iyong tax. Let's move on to our second topic, which is what is inclusive growth. The inclusive growth is the concept that advance equitable opportunities for economic participants during economic growth with benefit by every section of society. Also, expand upon tradition model include to focus on equality of health, human capital, environmental quality, and social protection and food security. So when we say inclusive growth, from the word inclusive, pangkalahatan, panglahat, is inclusive growth is related with economic growth kasi they are connected with each other. Because when we say economic, yung ekonomiya, so lahat din napapabilang, so included siya. And pag sinabing inclusive growth, this is our increasing income. And this is our rising standard of way of living. And also, inclusive growth is about having longer term of perspective. Kasi nga, sa inclusive growth, kailangan mo ng malawak na perspective. Kasi nga, dito, kailangan patuloy kang naghahanap ng paniniwala upang magkaroon ng mas mainam na paglago at pagbabago ng ating bansa. Kaya naman related siya sa economic growth. So next one is inclusive growth implies with, first is macroeconomics. When we say macroeconomics, from the word macro, which means big, and macroeconomics is interested as a whole national income. So when we say national income is big, kailangan talaga lahat is included niya. Nakafocus siya sa demand and supply at sa iba't ibang paggalaw ng prices ng mga demand, supply, such in importing like that. And syempre, nakapokus ang microeconomics sa gross national product and gross domestic product dahil big participant siya. Next is microeconomics. Kung kanina, macro is big, ngayon micro, which means small. And this is focuses on behavior of individuals. So, nakapokus din siya sa paggalaw ng ekonomiya, pero small lang siya, small participant. And ilan sa mga example nito is yung pagtaas ng presyo, like that, yung high ratings of employment, tradings, production. Syempre, small lang siya, small participant ang included sa kanya. For example, sa tindahan, bakit tumataas yung presyo doon? While sa macro is, bakit ba tumataas yung presyo ng production ng palay? Or bakit ba nagkakaroon ng ganon? While sa micro is, sa tindahan lang siya. When we say macro, grocery na. Ganon ang pinagkaiba nila. Next, let's move on to the last topic. Why and how principles of taxation and inclusive growth dealt with each other. Siyempre, they dealt with each other through taxation is connected as a cycle to inclusive growth. Kasi nga, pagka sinabi nating inclusive growth, is nakapaloob dito yung example na sustainable development. Pag sinabi naman natin taxation, is yung pondo ng gobyerno para makapagpatupad ulit ng iba't ibang proyekto at para mapaganda ang ating infrastruktura. Ganito lang yan, simple term. Pag sinabi nating taxation, this is the causes. Pag sinabi naman nating inclusive growth, this is the effect. So, pag sinabi nating taxation, causes siya. Dahil siya ang pondo na nagbibigay sustento para makamit natin ang inclusive growth. So, ganito lang yan. Pag walang taxation, walang inclusive growth na epekto. At kapag naman walang inclusive growth, walang saysay ang taxation na ating binabayaran na bawat mamamayan. So, lagi nating tatandaan, konektado ang taxation at inclusive growth dahil sila ay nakakapag-form ng pagkakaisa para magkaroon ng sustainable development and sustainable way of living at para naman may kapupuntahan ang bawat pera ng mamamayan or ang bawat kaban ng mamamayan. That's all for today. Thank you for listening. Bye!